Well guys, you join us at the awesome Bishop's Bowl Fishery just outside Warwickshire, an absolute stunning venue filled with stunning carp, and I've been lucky enough to land this absolute peach of a scaly mirror. Look at that! At just over £20, an absolute banger. I'm here today with Henry the Hound as well. And yeah, what an absolute wicked fish to start things off, eh? So today we're going to talk you through some of the rigs I'm using and some of the new Camotex materials that have come out, but more on that a bit later. So we're going to revel in this capture, show the other side of this beautiful creature, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we might sneak another. So here is the other side of this absolute belter. Yes, what a fish that is. So chuffed to get one, and one that looks like it is mega. So yeah, happy times. Yes. Right, that's enough waffling. We'll get this one back. So we're here for the day filming, and I managed to nab that absolute awesome looking mirror just before the cameras arrived. So it sort of nested itself in the waist sling, waiting for Brad to arrive with the camera gear. But I'm here, I'm in the middle of the fishery. The reason I've chosen centre of the lake is we've got a proper cold, bitter north wind blowing, which is blowing right down into the corner. Now, the owner of the lake advised me to go down in the bottom corner, but I just didn't fancy setting up in the teeth of the wind. In front of me, I've got two islands. And you can see just as the wind line starts, that's where I'm targeting. So it's just off the wind, and I just fancy those pockets of water are just a little bit warmer at the moment. As it's springtime now, the water's warming up, and those are the areas I'm targeting. My left-hand rod, which is the rod that I've had the fish on, just off that island to the left there, probably about 8 foot from it. So I'm just off the marginal shelf on the bottom there. My right-hand rod is sort of out in open water, again, just on that wind line. I put probably about 6 or 7 spoms out yesterday of mixed particle, sort of a bit of hemp, chopped maize, bit of boilie, and then just coated it all up in the cell syrup. So that's how we're playing out. Hopefully we can nick one for the rest of the day. Here's hoping, but I'll run you now through those rigs. So I want to talk to you today about our new Camotex material, where in the past you used to have a range of colours available. We've got rid of all that, and there's literally one hook link, which is a complete camo, which blends into any lake bed. We've done so many tests on these guys, and it is absolutely fantastic. So the one I'm using today is this little bad boy. This is the semi-stiff camo, and that's it. All that you need to know on that bottom bit there, camo. The only difference is this time you've got to choose whether you want a semi-stiff, a soft, or a stiff. Those are the 3 versions of doing. So first up in the range is the soft version. Multiple of uses. Personally, this one, I'll be using this if I was fishing a lot of marginal work. With margins, you get a lot of debris from the trees, sticks falling. You can't move the sticks because you're trying to be stealthy. This is a sort of hook link that will lay over those sticks and follow the contours of the lake. Again, it will sort of lend itself to fishing in sort of the weed areas as well. So you need that long hook link. As long as you're critically balancing that bait, it will kick away. It's just about testing it in the edge first to make sure you're getting it right when it's out there in the pond, making it sure it's super long as well. I'm quite happy to use it over a choddy area as well, and even gravel. You know, I've fished areas where I've gone over and the gravel's quite big. There's some big lumps of gravel. You know, as long as you've got a long hook link, this stuff will follow those contours because it is super soft. It is a coated braid, so it can be stripped, so you can create those hinges near the hook point. An absolute wicked coated braid. That is the soft version. So moving on to the second in the range, this is the semi-stiff version, truly a jack of all trades. If I could only use one hook link out of the range, this would probably be it. Lends itself to a whole series of rigs out there, whether you're using the multi-rig, a balanced snowman rig. I'd even use it as a sort of boom section if you've got a bit of a choddy area and you want it to have a little bit of suppleness to kick that away. Obviously this is the stuff to use. Again, it's a strippable braid, so you can create those little hinges just after the flippers or the shrink tube so that the hook can turn and flip and grab hold of the fish's bottom lip. If you're using bag work, if you're sort of clipping on little bags of pellet, little baby sticks, it's a great all-rounder. It lends itself to a whole multiple of purposes, one that I absolutely love. So next up in the range is the stiff version. First things first, I'll be looking at a very, very clean area of the lake to fish. Because it's so stiff, once you steam it straight, you don't want any debris out there. So if it falls on the debris, it's going to kick up at a funny angle. So first things first, look for those clear areas of the lake. It lends itself really for boom sections. That's where I'd ideally be using it. I'll be using it all winter long on my Ronnie rigs for the boom section there. And then I've had absolutely a really, really good hit this winter and some really good results. Also, if you're a fan of the stiff hinge rig, this is an absolutely great bit of kit to use as your boom section. If you're using fluorocarbon, and you have done for years, because of the camo now, because it blends into any background on that bottom, a great replacement for those fluorocarbon booms that we used to use. And if you're fishing at long distance, or when you're punching it sort of 100 yards, 120 or plus more, as long as you're hitting that clip, this stuff will not tangle. You will feel it, as long as you're feeling that lead down, you know that your rig is going to be presented every time. One thing I'd like to highlight, if you're going to be using the stiff material itself, if you're going to be tying your knots, it's very important you do it over the steam of a kettle. So it just makes everything a bit more easier to work with, a bit more pliable. The knots will sort of steam down nice and tidy and very neat, and it'll be ready to cast out for the perfect presentation out in the pond. So it's been a few hours since we've had the fish, and the weather, it keeps changing every 30 minutes. Literally sort of 20 minutes ago we were sat here in t-shirts, then it was snowing, thermal jackets are back on and woolly hats are back on. So I'm targeting just some different spots now. Obviously I've kept the one spot that we had the fish on to my left hand side, and then my other rod I'm just sort of roaming it, you know, I've sort of keep switching it. We've seen a few on the surface, so I put a zig on, and then literally, like I said, 20 minutes later, heavens open, it goes bitterly cold again. There's a horrible north wind blowing and you can proper feel it. So 1 minute you think zigs are going to work, and then it switches it on its head, you think should be on the deck. So I've got one rod that I just keep swapping and changing to try and nick a bite. I'll put this one right just onto that the right hand island, and I'm just topping up now with a little bit of bait. Not a lot, probably putting 30 hook baits or 30 freebies around the hook bait itself, and that's it, just trying to snare one. I always think this time of year the carp are starting to wake up, they're patrolling their sort of new routes, visiting the islands, and that's where we're trying to nick a bite from on one of those patrol routes. So we're moving into the last few hours of the session. Big tip in spring is do not ignore the margins. Now earlier today I've walked down the margin just down to my left hand side here, saw a nice little area, I put a bit of bait in, it's sort of mixed up with sort of hemp, bit of chopped maize, a few 10mm boilies. I've been keeping an eye on it all day, and I noticed a few more bubbles popped up about an hour ago. I've gone back, checked it 20 minutes ago, a few little more bubbles, so I'm just knocking up a rig now. I'm going to walk down there, stealthily lay a rig over it, using the new Camotex soft. I don't know what the bottom is like. There seems to be a little bit of sort of low-lying weed, so I know this stuff will sit over the weed itself. Critically balanced. I'm just going to check it in the edge before we go down. And yeah, here's hoping we might be able to snare one before we go. But I'll finish tying this rig up, and then we'll go down to the spot and get it lowered in. Well, unfortunately, the margin spot hasn't materialised to anything. I've given it a good sort of 40 minutes now, and nothing has occurred. So unfortunately, this does bring to an end our session here at Bishop's Bowl Fishery. So a massive thank you to the owner for allowing us to come and film our short session piece. Absolutely chuffed to bits to get that beautiful scaly banger earlier today. Chuffed, you know, it's always a little bit unknown when you're fishing a place for the first time, but to get off with a lovely 20, I'm over the moon to say the least. So I hope the short session has given you an insight to our new Camotex materials, the hook links that are now available. Be sure to check your local Fox stockist out and have a look at them for yourself.